The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine LaPointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine LaPointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome. Did you know that every face tells a story? Have you ever wondered what story your face is actually telling the world? Are you the happy-go-lucky type with smile lines that show when your face lights up? Are you a private worrier, with an eye that closes just a little when you're uncertain about someone that you meet? And you may not know it, but the world actually does, because when you're really young, we begin to read faces around us. And it's really important that we do that almost instinctively in order to improve our odds of survival and success in life. And that's why I'm really happy to welcome today's guest, who knows all about the importance of understanding how to read the faces around you so you can better connect with others and prosper in the world. And I mentioned in a live that I did just a few minutes ago, and if you're here after hearing that live, then welcome. It's so good to see you. I mentioned that today I'm a little bit nervous myself. I put on the makeup with a little bit more intention today because of our guest is here. So I'll introduce her in just a few moments. And for those I haven't met before, I'm Lorraine LaPointe. I'm really passionate about taking you from being just functional in your life to a life that's phenomenal. And many think of me as their guide who helps people like us who are ready to begin living more satisfied and a more fulfilled second half of our life. Of course, many of you are familiar with me and also my company, Head Heart Synergy, because we reach out each week through the Edge of Fulfillment, which is the Women for Women Network radio and Talk for TV program. Together, we create an inspiring, safe, a sacred space to explore different ways to improve our satisfaction and our fulfillment in life through the four elements to a fulfilled life. And many have taken the free online quiz to help them identify which of the elements would be most useful in improving their life satisfaction score. And I'll give you that link at the end of the show. So funnily enough, our guest adds an element of her own as she works with facial intelligence. And she's going to show you how faces can help you become more prosperous as well. And so today, whether you're here live or you've come across us at a later time, we want you to be fully engaged, to connect with us by adding comments or reflections or even questions in the chat. And each week we broadcast here from all kinds of different places through the magic of technology. And the program is for you. And if there's something in our conversation that you find interesting or that makes you curious, be sure to let us know what that is. So one of the ways that you can do that is by inviting friends and family. Just go ahead and put their names in the chat. The chat could be here or here or here, wherever the chat may be. And go ahead and invite them into the show so that you have a face that you can study while our guest speaks about them. And throughout the show, our wonderful producer, Roxy, behind the scenes can put up your comments and your questions. So if you have a question, just put the hashtag, the word question, and you can help shape this show into something that's most useful for you, because the program is designed with you in mind. So today, a little bit of housekeeping. You have another opportunity to be a winner for this week's contest. And this week's prize is an amazing clarity connection call with Michelle. And she can read the story in your face and help you prosper. So simply listen throughout the broadcast. There'll be 5 words related to the 5 facial archetypes that Michelle will help us understand. And then near the end of the show, we'll ask you to put the names of those 5 archetypes into the comments in the chat, or you can send us an email. And then we'll randomly draw a winner. And that winner's name will be announced next week. So last week's winner was Ruth Berry Hitchings, and she will receive the prize that was sponsored by Kathleen Fanning from Invest in Yourself. So congratulations, Ruth. You are last week's winner, and I'll be in touch to let you know how you can claim your prize. So when you hear them, you can go ahead and jot down the 5 archetype names. And today I want to start with the first one. Normally I do a random oracle card draw, but today I decided that I would actually purposefully pull a card. And I don't know if you can see this one or not. Sometimes it's hard to see, but I'll read it for you. It's called the Royal You. And so let me just give you a quick rundown of why I thought that card was most important. So are you feeling comfortable in your own skin? Are you knowing who you are and that nothing outside of you can challenge your authentic self? Do you have that hard-won seat of awareness that you've earned the hard way? Because you are the ruler of your mind, you're being invited now to consider what discipline you need to apply to your thoughts. The challenges in your life at this time are to focus on what is right and good for you, as well as others. Royals know when to plan battles and how to stay out of unnecessary skirmishes or conflicts. They strategically wield their personal power. So now it's time to lead from the heart and lead with integrity. And so hold your head high, know your self-worth, and that is the mark of a true royal. And royal is one of the archetypes. And so jot that word down as we take a short break on the edge of fulfillment here on WN Radio and Talk for TV. And we'll be right back.
Mental fitness, the missing X factor for enhancing performance, achievement, and success. Mental fitness empowers you with the magic of 3: stabilized mood, peace of mind, deeper relationships. Time to make it happen? Grow the self-command muscle. Intercept your self-defenses. Build your inner wisdom. In less than 15 minutes a day, gain the missing X factor. Let me show you how. Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn. Gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/mfitness and join us right now.
Well, welcome back. And just a recap for those who are joining us, in case you didn't hear before the break, we're running a contest, and I actually had the prize misquoted. So Atfacevalu, which is our guest's company, is offering the Prosperous Life Planner, which is a quarterly edition, as the prize, so that you can gain a better understanding and develop with prosperity in your life. So be listening for the 5 archetypes as our guest will share them. We've already had the first archetype. The first archetype was royal. So go ahead and jot that one down and simply listen for the other 4 archetypes that our guest will share, and then add the 5 words together. Don't put them in the comments right now. Add the 5 words in at the end of the show to be eligible for the draw. So we'll ask you to add those at the end of the show. So you're participating here on the Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN, which is the Women for Women Network radio and talk for TV. And it's my pleasure today to introduce Michelle Butt. And welcome, Michelle. So good to have you here.
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And can I do a little bit of a formal introduction, and then we'll get deeply into all of the goodness that you offer?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And please, if I miss anything, you can jump right in at the end there. So Michelle Butt is the owner of a company, Atfacevalu, and she's known for facial intelligence and expertise, because Michelle has said to me before, faces are all around us, and they provide such an amazing opportunity to learn about others, and we can learn how to stop pushing against them and have our knowledge and understanding work for us. And so I'm dying to know, Michelle, what's the first thing you can tell me about archetypes, and perhaps a little bit about the story of my face? I'm almost nervous to ask so that our listeners have an idea.
Yeah. Well, facial intelligence really is the study of looking at the face from a perspective to understand what the features are telling us about who someone is. So their design, their personality, how they look at the world, how they think, and how they've been reacting and responding to their life experiences. So all of that shows up on a face. It's not the work that is kind of like, are you lying to me? That kind of work. And so when we talk about facial archetypes, we're kind of like talking about the ability to have someone take a personality test without the test. So you know how there's like Myers-Briggs and all different kinds of personality tests, but they're questionnaires that take forever to fill out, and then you have to wait for the responses. This is kind of doing that in the moment, because you're able to look at combinations of features and then see, based on certain combinations, what potential archetype or personality type that person has, and be pretty accurate to at least get some flavor of who they are and how they respond to the world, which may or may not be similar to your perspective. And that's the beauty of all of this, because if you're predominantly one archetype and the person you're connecting with is another, then we tend to kind of just communicate from our own point of view. But in order to create the most resonance with someone else, if you can communicate from their perspective, then they'll really feel like you understand them and get them, and that connection and relationship will build that much faster and that much stronger.
And I'm curious, do archetypes run in families, or can family members, and obviously people that you work with can have different archetypes, but do they run in families at all, or what's your experience with that?
Well, I think certain features can. Like, we'll say, oh, you look like your mom or your dad, but really each of us has a unique combination. Even twins' faces are not exactly alike. So even though there may be some general resemblances, for the most part, people tend to come up with their own archetypal nature based on their DNA and their journey. Most of us are one or two, more likely two strong archetype combinations. So in that respect, our parents would not necessarily be the same ones as we are.
Yeah, which is fascinating. So even twins don't have exactly the same, I want to use the word profile, but the same expression, I would think, in terms of their face. I know that at the beginning of the show, I talked about people having laugh lines and sometimes, frown lines and that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of things that show on our face, I would assume, put there throughout our life. So tell me more. I'm fascinated. Like, I don't know what else to ask you, because
well, so twins may have the same archetype that they start off with. So for example, you've mentioned the royal. So let's say we pick another one, like captivator twins. So another one is captivator. They may look the same, but because they're different people emotionally, then they're going to respond to life experience differently. And it's the response to life that shows up in their face in things like wrinkles and markings and scars, and even the way the features change based on response. That is how you can tell that their faces are different. So you can have two little captivator girls as in a family that are twins, but one may be really outgoing and go on that expressive, joyful side of the captivator, and the other may be very much more in tune to her empathic nature and thus be more shy and more reserved, even though those are both two ends of the spectrum for a captivator's personality and behavioral profile. So based on that, then you can kind of see how they're different, and even just different in terms of like things like their ears and how those develop to show their response to their life experience. And that's where we see that they think differently, and they're two individual people, even though they may seemingly look exactly the same.
It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely. So we've had two archetypes mentioned, the royals and the captivator. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of the others? Like I believe that I have a predominantly round face, I think. And so I think that suggests another.
Yeah, so nice fullness and roundness in the face, and a warmth that exudes from you. So that is really a predominant nurturer face. So really someone who cares about other people, tends to put other people first, that quintessential kind of maternal energy where you are connected to women and family values and all of those kinds of things. So that's really what a nurturer face signifies. And then we have a warrior face. So someone who's very much a doer, an action taker, very confident and competitive. Those are faces that tend to be more, have more sharper angles, thicker eyebrows, and more square in general.
So now we've had actually 4 of the 5, and we're just 20 minutes into the show, which is amazing. So that's so when we're looking at friends, relatives, that type of thing, is face shape the first thing to be aware of to give us an idea of what personality or how someone likes to be approached?
I think the thing that I always say is that you look for the feature that is popping out at you most. So when you look at someone, what is the thing that's kind of blinking at you like, hey, look at me? Is it their nose? Is it their forehead? Is it their mouth? What is it that's saying, hello? And that's the feature that you kind of start with. So if it's a nose and you're noticing it because it's prominent or it's, the highlight of the face, then you start thinking, okay, well, which archetype has the nose as one of its feature combinations? And that's, noses are associated with the royal. So then you say, okay, well, maybe that means that that person has some royal traits to them. And then you would look for other features that would confirm that suspicion. Sometimes it is face shape, like a round, fuller face is pretty much clearly nurturer is one of the big two. But sometimes it's not as overt as that for face shape. So I usually say, look at the feature that is saying, look at me first. And that's where you can go, because that's a good start. The other thing to do is, if the archetypes are really nice personality profiles, but sometimes they're a little, especially in the beginning, harder to remember. Oh, well, if they've got this feature and that feature and that feature, then they're definitely a royal. So every feature in and of itself has meaning. So if you're a new face reader, then you may want to just concentrate on one or two features and just know what those features mean, and then know that that's one thing you know about that person.
Absolutely amazing. And so your company not only helps people understand faces, but I understand that you've developed a whole framework and system for helping people prosper with the understanding of faces and understanding facial intelligence. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the work that I've done with people over the years, because I've been doing this for 11 years now, people will come to me for relationship issues, or because they're curious, or business issues. And what I've found is that most times the answer is in the face somewhere to the problem that they have. And whatever that problem is, because facial intelligence is based on Chinese medicine and then linguistics and body language, for the core of ancient wisdom is that everything is connected. So everything must be considered. And so in general, when you look at the face and you find a block that can be worked through based on what the feature means and how that person is living in accordance with their design or out of alignment with that design, then it has a permeating effect on the transformation in all areas of their life. So then they begin to prosper everywhere, not only financially, but in their relationships, in their joy, in their health. And so that's why I say that the work really helps you build a prosperous life, because understanding how you move through the world will help you understand how you approach everything that becomes a problem or may have an issue around it.
Oh, and that's such important work. I'm curious. So you've been doing this 11 years. Mm-hmm. So how did you come across this? How did you fall into being a facial intelligence expert?
Well, it started actually for two reasons. One was my coaching journey, because I had been in corporate and then had kids. And when I decided that I didn't want to go back to a 9-to-5 type of job, in my role and in my education, becoming a coach just was the next logical step. So as I started my coaching practice, what I was finding was that there was still something missing. People couldn't always articulate what was at the root of what it was they were coming for. And so I was looking for another tool to help me figure out what it was that they weren't saying but needed to be said. And And so then in searching for that tool, I came across a book on face reading, Chinese face reading. And as I started to read it, I realized this is that missing piece. This is where people give you who they are and what they're going through without saying a word. And as long as you can read the language, then you can translate for them what they really want you to know. And so in studying with that mentor for 2 years and then layering in my linguistics and NLP and communication education with that, I developed the facial intelligence work, which is really ancient practices applied to modern day living and with modern day tools.
Awesome. And I believe there was a story I read once that it all started with royalty. We seem to have a theme about royalty today, where in China, if somebody was a royal, you couldn't touch them. And so how does a doctor treat someone they cannot touch? And I understand that that's where they started to learn how to read the body and read the face, like things were so prevalent on the face that they started mapping parts of the body to the face. Am I in alignment with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in ancient China, if you needed healing, so the origins of this work comes from the healing modality. If you were royalty or if you were a woman, that at the time you couldn't be touched. So what they did was they developed what they call diagnosis by observation. So by looking for subtle changes or overt changes, particularly in the face, they were able to then figure out what might be going on from a bodily health perspective. So they started mapping the face, especially for connections to systems and organs and pathways, and that became the precursor for 5 elements acupuncture. So you know how there's acupuncture points on the body and on the face. That's how those were determined. And then as they were doing that from a healing perspective, they realized that certain combinations and certain features and certain showing up in certain ways also were predictably demonstrative of personality traits or life experiences. And so that's where the face reading for personality and understanding emotional responses began to be developed. So it was health first, then, of course, most of the time it's an emotional and thought pattern response that then causes the health issue, because eventually the body is going to physically manifest whatever thoughts and feelings we're having that are not serving us very well from a physical perspective. So that's how it developed into face reading for understanding life experience and personality, and how the two go hand in hand to really create this holistic body of health and understanding. So our mental being, our physical being, our emotional being, our communicative being.
That's amazing. I mean, what an evolution, and what an ability to, or an understanding to have. And I know that we haven't mentioned the 5th archetype yet, and I'm going to ask you to hold that one and hold that thought as we go for a break, because I know I'm curious, and I'm sure our listeners are, and I'm sure our listeners have lots of questions that might be running through their minds. So we're going to take a short break and be right back here on Edge of Fulfillment, W4WN, and Talk for TV. And we'll see you in just a moment.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn, gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/mfitness and join us right now.
And here we are back on Edge of Fulfillment with my guest, Michelle Butt, and we are talking about facial intelligence. And I'm wondering, Michelle, you know how things really light people up? Like some people just, they get passionate about certain things. Is there some telltale signs, some hints on the face that can lead people to more life satisfaction and fulfillment?
I think yes, and it depends on really that archetypal nature, because depending on who you are, then different things are going to light you up. So if you're a warrior, then competition, a healthy debate, running, something very active, that will light them up. Captivator, just to be the center of attention, to laugh, to giggle, to get dressed up and wear red lipstick, that will light you up. And a nurturer, to have a meal with family and friends and have someone to chat with and tell stories to, that will light them up. A royal will be lit up by beautifully designed things, fine jewelry, impeccable, walking into an impeccably organized room or something like that. So in terms of those aspects, from just a base, this is who you are space, that will light someone up. But also if you're out of balance, then if you are, do you want me to share the last archetype now? Or
Sure. I'm sure that there are some people sitting on the edge of their seat. So as soon as you hear number 5, you can start to put the 5 archetypes into the chat. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the 5th one is the sage. So if you are someone who's a sage, which is someone who's very intuitive and quiet and introspective, yet creative, then, doing something creative or being in meditation, that could light them up. However, if we are out of balance, then sometimes being out of balance means that you need to access the energy of another archetype in order to bring you back to balance. And so that may mean something that typically doesn't feel like it would light you up might be the thing that you need to cure your blues. So even though we all are kind of strongly 1 or 2, because we have all the features, we have access to all of the energies, and being able to then use that access when necessary to bring balance back into our lives, or to boost something when we are in certain situations in our life. That knowledge is really something that is very quintessential to being fulfilled and living prosperously.
Awesome. And I often talk about needing to have peace of mind, or personal power, or passion, or purposeful living, as being elements to consider for being, satisfied and more fulfilled in life. And I'm seeing connections here with the archetypes and
Absolutely.
with the face shapes. So it's all coming together. And I noticed that John had an interesting comment there a few moments ago. He says our overall well-being is also important. And I think, yes, thank you, John. I agree. And I think that what you were saying, Michelle, is that we can use the archetypes, the facial intelligence to know how to access that overall well-being.
Absolutely.
I think I heard you say that we have elements of all five, that no is purely one thing or another, that they...
Yeah, because even though a nose may be part of a royal archetype, we all have noses. And, noses mean something, and they mean that in varying degrees to each of us. So noses really are about how perfectionistic we are, how much control we need, how much we care about the quality of our work, how detailed or not we are, how rigid we can be around things. So depending on the size and shape of someone's nose in comparison with the other features, then that will determine their position on the spectrum of those characteristics. And that is true for all of us. So you may be a sage for the most part, but have a really prominent nose, and that's the only royal feature you have. So that doesn't make you royal, but it makes you an intuitive person who's also very in tune to details, which is not the same for another sage or another royal. And so the combinations of all the features are very much unique to each of us. And in that, we get our unique design, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally, and in our ability to connect and communicate with other people.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And you mentioned at the beginning too that sometimes scars on our face, and what popped into my mind when you said that was the mistakes that we sometimes make in life. And do those mistakes show up on our face? If we're not aligned with our purpose in our life, if we're not aligned with our passions, does that show up on the face?
I would say to a degree they do, in the sense that it's like when we choose to make that part of our story. So the story that we want other people to see. So it's like you're writing a story, and then if you put it on your face, then it's made the cut. So if it's not the draft, it's kind of like, and that's the way I look at it. So in facial intelligence, there's a spot on the face for every year from 1 to 100. So there's this mapping of your life there as well. So the way we look at scars is, okay, where is the scar? So what feature is it marking? Because it has something to do with then the emotional and behavioral positioning of that feature, as well as then what time of life. So if you have a scar on your eyebrow, you may have gotten that when you were 4, but the eyebrows really are indicative of the early 30s, late 20s. I don't know them all. I have to kind of look at, but that's around the time frame there. And it's also around feeling confident and self-assured and that kind of thing. So the way we look at scars, we look at it almost as, what are you trying to tell yourself about an experience that you had that you really need to learn from, to remember, or that you need to look at because there may be some reconciliation that happens at that time of life. So if you get that scar when you're 4 and it was because you thought you were running away from home and you were feeling like unsure of yourself or something, or some little thing that happens to a little one, and then at 30 something, where whatever that will mark, you may be going through a similar emotional experience. Like maybe there's a relationship that's breaking up, or you're having some trouble at work where you're not feeling so confident. And that scar is a reminder that, oh yeah, we're tapping into that emotional link. And this is our opportunity to do something differently about it if we want, or to understand the link and then choose to just comfort that little child inside and move through this and become more confident, or whatever the case may be, for the healing of that situation.
Yeah, and John just mentioned about rings of a tree. We, very much like rings of a tree when it's cross-cut, Actually, the story reminds me, I had a client who had a scar on her eyebrow, and it was quite red, and she always used to put makeup over it. And when we did some work together and we released the fears and the hurt that was around that event in her past, what she noticed one day and said with absolute surprise is, I haven't put makeup on that scar for so long. Look, it's almost gone. And it was such a correlation to, what was going on with her face and that scar with what she was experiencing emotionally. So thank you for reinforcing that. And
you're welcome. That happens often, because if it no longer needs to be a part of your story, then it doesn't need to show up there anymore. Because if you've done the work that you needed to do, and now it's released, then that happens often. It happens with scars. It happens with wrinkles. It happens with features, redefining themselves in terms of size and shape. So
yeah,
this is just a reflection of us.
Yeah, I've noticed as well that as people unburden themselves, when they stop carrying the weight of their past and they've dealt with things. I mean, betrayal is something that many of my clients are now focusing on releasing, because that is that can just devastate your life. And as you get unburdened, you get lighter, and your face actually demonstrates that. It gets almost younger looking, and you get more of that glow and that. So it's great to know that is in a fact. That is exactly what happens. So
absolutely
wonderful. So we're coming to the end of our show, unfortunately, and I would love for you to have an opportunity to tell our audience and to tell our viewers anything that you have that you would like to share with them that you haven't been able to talk about, or perhaps you can talk about your prosperity planner at the moment.
Yeah, so we just recently launched the Prosperous Life Planner. There are digital versions and print versions. And so really what it is it's a planner designed to help people move through their life with the facial intelligence archetypes as the background framework of that. So all of the way that it's designed, and in the goal setting section, it's about following the laws of nature. And even though it doesn't overtly say that, all the questions that I ask people to consider, they are all tied to each of the archetypal energies, so that you can move through the day and through the things that you want to accomplish with this underlying energetic flow that is what the 5 archetypes and the 5 elements are all about. So regardless of what your base archetype is, it's free form enough that any archetype can use it and feel some resonance with it, and hopefully then be able to plan for prosperity in their overall life.
Wonderful. And because it's a quarterly, it's for 3 months, right? Which is enough time to plan something and get something accomplished, but not so much that it's overwhelming and, you're committing your entire life to it at that particular point. What a wonderful opportunity. And I noticed, I want to thank Roxy for putting up the link there that people can connect with you and learn more about the program, and learn more about how facial intelligence can help them plan and become prosperous in their life. And that is just absolutely wonderful, because I can't imagine anyone not wanting that in their lives. So thank you for bringing that to our audience and making that available to people. And I want to thank you so much for being here and offering all of this insight and wisdom.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I know I could talk to you for hours and hours about the subject. It's absolutely fascinating. But I also want to go over the 5 archetypes. Maybe you can let our audience know what the 5 archetypes are again. And when you hear these words, go ahead and put them into the chat or email them to me at support@headheartsynergy.com and just put in the subject line contest so I can grab your ballot for the contest winner, and we can see who will win that wonderful prosperity planner opportunity with you. So go ahead, Michelle, tell us the 5 archetypes again.
So the 5 archetypes are sage, warrior, captivator, nurturer, and royal.
Awesome. And if there are listeners that would like to join other like-minded individuals, they are welcome to join the Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward. That's where we all hang out and support each other. And I often post information and resources and things in there for people. So that's an opportunity as well for our listeners. And there's also a second opportunity, and that is a new quiz that has just been devised called the Elements Quiz. And that's the number 1 element that would improve your life satisfaction score. So take that quiz. It's free and it's quick, and you'll have an idea of what element you can focus on. Good morning, Angeline. Good morning, Sherry. You can focus on in order to improve things in your life and gain greater satisfaction. So at this point, I'm going to wrap things up because this has been the Edge of Fulfillment. And hopefully this discussion has helped you move just a little beyond the edge of fulfillment and into your midlife awakening. So thanks, Michelle. We'll talk again really soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye for now.